What's going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande, previewing Monday's 6-game slate on the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS live stream. What's going on, James? I just asked you before we jumped on air how many Pelicans are too many Pelicans. I didn't get your answer. How many Pelicans are too many Pelicans tonight?
I probably ignored you, or I was in the bathroom. For tournaments, I don't think there's an actual number on that. But it's not just Pelicans; it's Pelicans / Rockets.
Right.
I don't think you could just build an entire lineup of Pelicans and Rockets, and I think we'd be okay. For cash games, no more than 2 Pelicans, no more than 2 Rockets, but I think you can probably jam about 4 of them in your cash game lineups. Considering, there's really good value on the Pelican side today. Thanks to Lonzo Ball.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also elite spend-ups on the Houston side. There's also really good mid-tier plays on both as well. But, where there's elite plays, elite spend-ups on Houston, there are nice values on the Pelicans. So I think there's about 4 guys I would play in cash, or I would construct my cash game lineup with 4 guys from that game.
And, of course, if you don't know why I asked that question, it's because the Pelicans and Rockets today have a game that is currently at a 246 game total and rising. It opened at 242.5, and people are like, no, that's not enough points. We're betting the over. Probably makes a lot of sense. This is a Rockets team that against the Wizards, they combined to score 300, and I think it was 18 or 19 points. So certainly within the realm, of here. These 2 teams did play also earlier this season against one another. That game came out to be a 249 game total, with the Rockets actually winning by 3 in that one. So highly competitive, highly high-scoring game there, James. Some of the other ones we do on the slate, Minnesota, Detroit, 223 and -3. Return of Blake Griffin in that one. Probably throwing a monkey wrench into some of the plans there for the Detroit side. Dallas and Boston, 220 game total there, 3.5 point spread. No Gordon Hayward. Return of Enes Kanter, likely Marcus Smart moving into the starting lineup. So there's going to be some interesting matchups there. You got, I think, Luka Doncic just seeing all of Marcus Smart all day during that one. You have Memphis, San Antonio, 223.5. That game's got a 10.5 point spread. Toronto versus the Clippers, 221.5, 10-point spread there. Obviously, you have Kawhi up against the Raptors for the first time this year. And then Utah Golden State as our late night hammer. With the slate low, 211, 8-point spread in that one. I guess technically Toronto also at 10:30, so we can pick and choose our late night hammer in that one. But you either go with the 10-point spread or the 211 total. Not overly appealing.
Yeah, definitely. It's lowest implied total in the slate. It's not appealing, but it is from at least Utah's perspective because Golden State is dead last in defensive rating. So where it's not appealing, maybe we'll get lower ownership. But something we mentioned before we got on there, Utah is badly mispriced tonight, or at least it feels that way. They feel a lot of their guys feel underpriced, at least over on DraftKings. FanDuel too, because you can get Mike Conley under 7K and Bojan at 6.2. But I think there are definitely plays worth using from the Utah side. Maybe not Golden State tonight because with Draymond returning, that throws a wrench into everything. So, but I do think Utah is very viable tonight.
Yep, no, I agree with you. All right, James, let's jump into it. Like I said, we got 6 games here, and the question that we really need to decide, and you and I are talking about, it's a trap one way or the other. We think on DraftKings, you have Russell Westbrook at 8.8K.
Right.
So we already know the game total. We've talked about it. The production for Westbrook, though, the last 3 games, 36, 40, and 25 fantasy points in those games. Now, the shooting's been nice. He had 20 field goal attempts against Chicago, 18 against Golden State. But the reason those fantasy production has seemingly been gone down is because James Harden is so expensive and he is producing like a madman, 70 fantasy points in 3 straight. So are you paying up for Russell, or you're paying down, I guess, $8,800 for Russell Westbrook today? Are you paying up for James Harden? Are you trying to fit both in your lineups? What's your strategy? Because on DraftKings, you can obviously play both at point guard.
I think that there's something going on with Westbrook. He's just kind of scoring. Or shooting. That's really all he's doing. We saw 20 rebounds from Clint Capela last game. That obviously took away from the rebounding production, which we haven't seen Westbrook in 4 straight games reach double figures. I mean, 2 assists is definitely an outlier. I think that's going to come up. But as tempting as $8,800 is, he hasn't flashed the ceiling that James Harden has this year. Like, we're getting, and it's not even like this ceiling that James Harden, we're getting like a floor of 70 fantasy points right now. So as appealing as $8,800 is for Westbrook and as great as the matchup is, and I don't think it's wrong to play Russ, I just think it's better to play Harden, because if you get 6.5x from Westbrook and you get 6.5 from Harden, Harden's going to go for 75 fantasy points again. So, like, I mean, I would rather take my chances on the guy who's giving us a floor of 75 fantasy points right now, and spend up on Harden. And I think there's enough value on today's slate to do it, to comfortably, build around him. So I'm leaning Harden. I don't think you're wrong if you want to play Westbrook. It just feels so trappy. It feels so trappy. They are throwing out the bait, and they're seeing who's gonna bite.
Right. On FanDuel, Russell Westbrook 9,900 still very cheap and such a great matchup.
Right.
I mentioned as we jumped off Luka Doncic, he's the top price guy. I think Marcus Smart's gonna be on him all day, so I'm not really going there. But what do you think about the other guard in that matchup with Kemba Walker? He's $9,000 over on FanDuel. On DraftKings, he's $8,900. There's no Gordon Hayward, which means you got to think more shots are certainly going to be going likely in his direction. Marcus Smart, not a great usage player. Is Kemba a pivot for you if you're not going, with a Westbrook, or is Kemba on your radar in lineups today at all?
Yeah, I mean, the usage rate has been great. Outside of that Charlotte game, which obviously, was a blowout from the start. I mean, we're getting essentially 20 shots a night from Kemba. He's been good in the peripheral categories as well. So, I think he's perfectly fine. He's going to be so much more ball dominant with Gordon, because we know Hayward is very good at running an offense. I mean, it's just going to run through Kemba. I think he's perfectly fine. I think he's perfectly fine for all formats. Dallas is about league average against point guards. So there better matchups on the slate, sure. But the volume and the production is, it's going to be there. So I think we can get, the 40-point floor. I think there's a 40-point floor, and I think we could get 60 here as well.
Yeah, I definitely 100% agree with you. I think the floor is going to be really nice here, and he's just really fitting well at Boston.
Right.
And Marcus Smart's actually a really good passer. We'll probably allow Kemba to play off the ball a little bit. I think you can move him more towards that shooting guard spot on offense and allow Smart really to run the offense. So I like him a lot. If we go down the list, a couple guys on FanDuel at least are ruled out. Kari Lowry, Lonzo Ball's ruled out. So that mid-tier kind of shrinks a little bit. You have John Morant, who you and I are just frustrated with, the rotational minutes that he's getting right now. And we don't understand why he doesn't play more than he's playing. Only eclipsed 30 minutes once this season. You have Mike Conley, as you mentioned, really good price. Maybe potentially a little worried about a blowout. I don't know, given the point spread and the low total there. But the matchup's going to be great. His matchup against DeAndre Russell defensively. Then you have DeJounte Murray, who, again, we're still waiting for him to eclipse that 24, 25-minute plateau. It's supposed to be coming soon. Reports were earlier this year that around games 8 to 10, they were going to start increasing him a little bit by little. What's your take on that mid-tier here? Because, we know all those players have pretty high potential floors if they're given the opportunity.
Yeah, I think the industry's kind of catching on to the Mike Conley thing, considering how cheap he is. And he's been better lately. I mean, he got off to a really rough start, but only 6,200, 6,800 respectively on DraftKings and FanDuel. And again, the Warriors are the worst defensive team in the league. They're the bottom of the barrel against point guard. So I think he's really safe for all formats. And DeJounte Murray is a really strong play. I'm very curious to why this game total, I think we're giving too much credit to Memphis, the pace that Memphis plays at, to see a 223.5 total. I would suspect the under there. Okay. I think that's purely speculative that, San Antonio is going to get up and down and dominate because Memphis plays at such a fast pace. But, like, that's not the Spurs' MO, and I feel like the Spurs don't really adjust regardless. Like, yes, they're obviously going to get extra possessions here because Memphis is just going to dictate that. Yeah. But they still have LaMarcus Aldridge that's going to slow the ball down. They still have DeMar DeRozan, who is very good in half court. So, like, DeJounte is a good play. I don't think, like, there's going to be, like, this, this game is going to be so fast because right. I don't buy it. But I think Murray can get us there because peripheral stats. And I don't think people are going to play him as long as he's on this minute restriction. The ownership projections is just kind of skeptical for me. I mean, I'm seeing 16% over on FanDuel. I think that's just a price play because he's under 7K and the mid tier is kind of, I mean, after Conley, Murray, it's kind of dicey.
Yeah, for sure. This is definitely a good spot to maybe play on DraftKings since you have some of the other value that crosses over as like a shooting guard, point guard. Let's go over to shooting guard. Obviously, we have Harden. We've kind of talked about him enough. I don't think you need to understand.
Top play of the slate.
Yeah, lead play, top of the slate. Below him, do you have any interest in DeAndre Russell? All the usage is going there. His production's been through the roof. But it is going to be a tough spot for him. You think he's either going to get Donnie Mitchell defense or Mike Conley defense. But does his just shooting, as many times as he does, outweigh that for you?
I mean, in a tournament, sure. In a tournament, he could go out. We saw what he could do. He scored 50 actual. So, like, sure. I'm not, like, against it in tournament. In cash games, I'm not going to touch it. I still think that it's going to be different with Draymond on the floor because the ball is good. I mean, even with Steph Curry, like, more than half the time, Draymond was initiating the offense. So I want to see how it's going to be with Russell now, like, playing off the ball compared to just being so ball dominant. But in a tournament, it's fine. Completely fine. I think at a similar price tag, though, like, cheaper, actually, $600 on FanDuel, $900 on DK, Drew Holiday, in a 246 total with no Lonzo. And has he let us down? Numerous times. Pretty much every game he's played this year has he let us down. Sure. But, like, we're seeing it slowly come around. 39, 38, 40 fantasy points. And he shot 4 of 12, 33%, and he gave us 40. He shot 6 of 13, only 13 shot attempts with no Zion and no Lonzo. And Derek Favors played 9 minutes that game. 13 shot attempts, but still 38 fantasy points because the peripherals are coming back around. 6 rebounds, 5 rebounds, 11 assists. So, like, the peripherals are starting to show. This could be the Drew Holiday breakout that we're looking for.
We just got that starting lineup, too. It's the same one they had the other day. Holiday, Redick, Ingram, Williams, and Favors as their starting 5. Interesting that, and again, not to just jump too far ahead, but they didn't play Jaleel Okafor at all the other day.
No.
They played Favors almost 30 minutes. They gave Jackson Hayes run. And obviously Kendrick Williams played 28 minutes in that one as well. Redick played 29. So, I think unless they throw us for a loop here, I think hopefully they kind of stick to that so we can comfortably play some of the value that we'll hit upon in this game as we go across. You mentioned Drew, obviously. We've gone back and forth a little bit on Andrew Wiggins here. I talked about him on the podcast, how in years past, the problem with Wiggins was he was so scoring dependent. You needed 30 actual out of him to really hit any sort of value. But now you look at the rebounding numbers, you look at the assist totals, even giving you blocks and steals. Are you paying up for Andrew Wiggins? I mean, FanDuel is $8,000 over on DraftKings. Wiggins priced out maybe slightly more reasonable, $7,700.
You can. I'm not going to say don't. You can. 7,700 is a steep price, but we saw a ceiling game, 63 fantasy points. Yeah. But he also went for 40 actual. Do we expect him to score 40 actual?
That was an overtime game, I think, as well.
Right. Right. So, I mean, do I think it's fine? I think it's a nice tournament play. But, guys like Drew Holiday, guys like Donovan Mitchell, DeMar DeRozan, Fred VanVleet, all in this same – Jaylen Brown even for $1,400 cheaper, I think are all better plays.
Per dollar plays,
per dollar, yes, per dollar plays. If they were all the same price, obviously we'd be all right, well, Wiggins, if salary didn't matter.
Sure.
but I'd rather play all those other guys. But like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you not to play Wiggins and say like, oh, he's a bad play, because he's a good play. I just think it's a really strong position, and I just prefer other spots.
Yep, that's fair. You mentioned Van Fleet, Jaylen Brown, guys like that are now in increased roles due to injury. Obviously, no Lowry. We saw Van Fleet now back-to-back games at over 40 FanDuel points. He went for 49 with a double-double there against the Lakers last night. Any worry about the back-to-back here? And also, maybe he's drawing the tougher matchup if Pat Bev goes on him.
Yeah, it's that again. Like, we talk about this quite often. Like, there's a list. We have a list above our computers on a projector, and it's saying don't play guys against the players on this list. Like, Marcus Smart, Patrick Beverley are probably close to 1 and 2. I mean, Smart is 1, but Beverley is close to Smart. Do I think Van Vliet is fine? Sure. But I'm not going to be as sold as on him as much as others are. I get the numbers have been great, but again, it's Pat Beverley, second night of a back-to-back, as my phone plays a random video on NBA.com. So, like, he's okay. But again, I love Jaylen Brown tonight. I love Jaylen Brown without Gordon Hayward. I can save $600 going down from Brown against a poor Dallas defense. So I'm probably going to explore that option. But Van Vliet's fine. I just, for me, it's whatever.
Yeah, that's fine. What do you think about Jaylen Brown then?
Thanks for listening, John.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I was fixing some questions that we had on site there. So
I love Jaylen Brown.
What did you say about Jaylen Brown?
I love Jaylen Brown. I'd rather just save $600.
Fair enough.
Going from Van Vliet to Brown.
All right. Did we talk about Lou Williams while I was answering questions? You have a sort of revenge narrative game?
I told you on the last podcast or live stream that we did, I'm not buying into revenge hype anymore. I'm going to follow the numbers. But the numbers say play him anyway. He went for 58 and 47 fantasy points the last 2 games. So, like, another tournament play, perfectly fine.
Okay. Going further down, anybody that jumps out to you?
I'm interested in the Minnesota guys, the other Minnesota guys other than Wiggins, Jarrett Culver, and Josh Okogie. Okogie's been playing huge minutes off the bench, and Ryan Saunders just doesn't want to start him, but that doesn't mean anything. He's played 32 and 35 minutes, 30 and 38 DK points over those 2 games. We love attacking Detroit. Let's face it, we love attacking Detroit. I think it's only going to get weirder for Detroit with Blake Griffin and Derrick Rose back in the lineup. Like, things are just going to get out of control in Detroit. I love these guys. I love their price tags. I think you could play Redick. It is a really strong play at $4,700 on DK. We get the 3-point bonus in the starting lineup. And I would go back to the well on Norm, but Norman is a shooting guard on FanDuel.
Is he?
Yeah, shooting guard on FanDuel, 4,300. I would go back to the well there. Like, I would feel more comfortable playing someone like that on a back-to-back, knowing the price tag is easier to return value than, like, Van Vliet, who's $7K.
Yeah, that's fine. Anybody else jump out to you?
Nope. I think I'm ready to move on.
All right, we go to small forward. We have Kawhi, Siakam, Ingram, pretty loaded, I think, there at the top. If you're not playing James Harden, which you should, Kawhi is probably, not just for talent, but he is finally paying off the price points that, at his thing. So it just, to me, he's the clear pivot.
He's the clear pivot, and I know they've been bad. They, as in Toronto, have been bad against small forwards, but I don't know. Would
you play Leonard and Westbrook or Harden plus something? Like, if you had to figure out your, on DraftKings, obviously, those 2 guys give you 5,300, a position. Playing Harden, also gives you by himself just 55. So you can play Leonard and Westbrook and have the same basically player per position left than just playing Harden.
I mean, we're talking about a game total that's 24 points below New Orleans.
But his usage and scoring is still
I know. It's not to say that he's not like elite as they come, especially with Kyle Lowry. It's just like we're literally getting 75 points, and with the value on the slate, you can pair Harden plus Drew Holiday and get two guys from a total of 246, and still be comfortably set at other positions. So I would still lean Harden plus, but I get the argument because even Westbrook isn't even paying off his 8-8. Obviously, he can at any point. It's Russell Westbrook. But
he was earlier this year, which is like the weird thing, right? Like he was starting off slow, but he was eventually getting you there. What do you think about Siakam, Ingram, and that sort of next grouping?
I feel like just keep continuing to mention, like, you can play Ingram, obviously, because the total. I think Siakam is going to be far less owned than Kawhi because people look at 9,700, they're like, whoa, buddy, 9,700. But, I mean, 50, 64, 52 fantasy points last 3 games, 3 straight double-doubles since he's been called out, and he's been staying out of foul trouble. Obviously, the 42 minutes, last night in a tough game is concerning. They didn't obviously have to travel because they're staying in Staples Center. But I don't know, 42 minutes, I feel weird about playing guys on back-to-backs, and he's not a jump shooter per se, but he's taken 18 threes the last 2 games. So maybe we do want to kind of classify him as a jump shooter. So I think he's a great pivot. Ingram's a great play as well.
Yeah, that's fair. We go to that mid-tier, a little bit further down, and we see guys like Alec Burks, Daniel House. I know that, Bojan, obviously, in a good price tag against Golden State. How are you feeling about that grouping? I know you said you weren't as high on Daniel House today. Because you felt like his 6 steals the other day were probably, not something you can repeat. And other than that, the numbers weren't truly there. But, the rest of the numbers for most of this year have still been pretty consistent. And you talk about the game total. I'm definitely still kind of buying in on House just to get that game stack there. But what's your take sort of again on that middle tier there?
I mean, it's not that I don't like House, but yes, he got 6 steals. Obviously an anomaly, but he also only took 5 shots. So what if we get no steals and another game of 5 shots? It's not ideal. So yes, I like it, but it's not the same price tag we were getting. It's not that sub 4K price tag on Daniel House anymore. Still fine. Obviously, I think anyone in that game you can play comfortably. Alec Burks, I want to start. I'd like Alec Burks starting to play him at that price tag. And I love Bojan. 6,200 for a guy who's coming off a 33 actual point game. The minutes, just 38, 35, 35, 36, 31, 37. We know what we're getting with Bojan. And he's averaging 22 actual points. There's a floor right now of 30 fantasy points. There's a ceiling of 40 plus. So 6,200 for Bojan against a bad defensive team. Now maybe he gets Draymond. Maybe that's something that we need to consider, depending on the starting lineup. Will Steve Kerr start Cauley-Stein next to Draymond? Will he say, no, you know what? We started Draymond at center a couple times this year. Let's start Draymond at center. So I guess it all depends on how they run their starting lineups out. But for now, 6,200 Bojan with that usage rate, 27%. With the actual scoring, I'm in on Bojan.
All right. Kind of sort of the value play of the night's probably going to be Kendrick Williams, right? Starting, he's 3,900 on FanDuel. On DraftKings, Williams priced out at $4,300. Started the other day, played 28 minutes, had 33 fantasy points. He was one of the chalkier plays of the night as well. So I think we're going to see a lot of people go back into this well here.
How would you rank, because, again, we talk about New Orleans value. How would you rank these 3 guys? Redick, Williams, Favors, because if we're projecting them all to play around 30 minutes, Derek Favors gave us a double-double. Kendrick Williams went for 33 fantasy points, and JJ Redick went for 36, hit 3 3-pointers. So or 5. They're all so good in terms of value. I had Redick and Redick and Favors, because if we're gonna get 30 minutes of Derek Favors, I love that because he's a very offensively talented guy. I think he's way more talented offensively than Kendrick Williams. But how would you rate them? Would you put Kendrick number one?
I mean, just for the pure savings, especially on FanDuel, I think you have to. On DraftKings, obviously, it's a little bit more closer. Like, he's 43, Redick is 47, and I think what Favors is 49, 47
yeah,
as well.
He's 47.
So, I mean, you're not getting as huge of a discount, but on FanDuel, if you're definitely trying to go stars and scrubs and pay up for a $12,000 James Harden, I think you definitely have to put Williams number one there. I agree with you. I like Favors a lot. The defensive numbers haven't really been there yet this year, but I mean, last year he averaged almost a block and a half a game as well.
Right.
And that was while playing 26 minutes a night or whatever it was there for 23 minutes a night, for Utah. So, I mean, a guy like that can, give you almost a double-double with some defensive metrics as well. So I agree. If we're going to get, 30 minutes of Favors, I think I bump him up maybe even a little bit higher than Redick. I mean, I know, he had a really good game, but you do need him to hit those threes,
right?
Or else he just bottoms out for you. Where at least if the scoring maybe isn't 100% there for Favors, the rebounds will be there. And like I said, he's been in, better for blocks and maybe potential steals as well. So the one thing is that this game's gonna be high scoring. It's gonna be fast paced. His Favors knees gonna be able to hold up to that. Is he gonna be able to run up and down the floor for that long? So something to worry. Certainly, at least put into consideration. There.
His knees held up pretty. I mean, he plays on a fast-paced team. That's my only counter argument. Like, the Pelicans are fourth in pace regardless, whether or not this game is going to be high-paced or not. Like, the Pelicans are still getting out and running, and he's played 30 minutes. So that's my only counter argument. But I completely understand because I hate Derek Favors' knees more than anything.
Right. Exactly. Any other value plays jumping out to you here at small forward at all?
No, I'm ready to go to power forward.
Okay, I wasn't sure how you felt about Culver.
Also mentioned him at shooting guard. Thank you.
Okay,
once again.
Small forward on FanDuel, of course, obviously throws you for a loop. Those positions. So power forward, Porzingis. There, we're not touching Blake, right?
Nope.
Yeah. So you have Porzingis, you have Tatum. I don't really like LMA even in the spot against Memphis. For me, he just. I know he killed it against OKC the other day, but those games seem almost like few and far between. He's very inconsistent, so maybe he's a GBP play. FanDuel 8,100. I have no real interest in paying that cost for him when Tatum and Porzingis is sort of in that same field. Maybe 6,300 for him on DraftKings is more appealing to you.
Yeah, for tournament 6,300 for sure.
Okay. What other power forwards are you looking at?
Porzingis, as you mentioned, the rebounding rate for Boston, they're 29th in the league. I think this is a double-double waiting to happen. And we saw his breakout. It's not a great position. I think you're going to get a lot of value guys. Obviously, Kendrick Williams. I think Tatum is fine. I don't have the need to play Tatum, but I think he's fine. I would probably rank him behind Kemba and Jaylen Brown in terms of how I rank the Boston guys.
Okay.
You can go back to the Jaren Jackson well. He's still a little too cheap, but Brandon Clark is there. You could play Glenn Robinson, but Draymond's there. So it's not a great position. I think Porzingis, Aldridge are probably two of the top tier plays, and then you play Kenny Williams as well. I think is Boucher.
He's a
center on FanDuel?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll save that for the center position.
Yeah. All right, let's jump over to center. You have Towns, Drummond, Capela at the top. Towns and Drummond obviously going up against one another. The return of Blake likely going to hinder Drummond a little bit. Do you have interest in Towns at the top?
Yeah, definitely interested in Towns, and I think Drummond is a really sneaky tournament play just because I think everyone is thinking that way, but I think if Detroit is smart, they're going to continue to run their offense through Drummond with how good he's been. So maybe a sneaky tournament play. Towns is elite. We haven't seen the 70-point production we saw in the first couple games of the year, but 60 at 10K is perfectly fine. 6X, I would have no problem with that. I think a lot of people are going to play Gobert. I just don't play the guy. He's not gonna shoot more than. He's never going to give us double-digit shot attempts. He shot twice against Milwaukee, twice. Mm-hmm. And I get it.
17 boards.
17 boards is nice, but he only gave us 1 block as well, and he's only averaging 1.1 blocks per game. Like, this isn't the Rudy Gobert that we're getting 3 to 4 blocks per game. Right. If that were the case, then I think I would kind of overlook the shots. But I mean, he's not giving us the blocks. Is there potential for it? Sure. The minutes are nice. I'll let everyone play that. I'll let everyone chase that, and then I'll just play Boucher.
Yep, that's fine. A guy that you and I always talk about getting wrong is Clint Capela. The last 2 games now, though, 53 and 61 fantasy points. Are you going back here? I mean, I know, again, he's part of that game stack. He's part of the 240 total. Capela,
I'm trying to pull up the ownership projections because I want to know how Capela is going to be owned. I think he would be a really good low-owned play in this matchup. Capela is 6% projection on DK.
Right.
I think he's kind of a great pairing with Harden. I mean, look at Harden's been over 70, Capela's been over 50 in back-to-back games. 16 and 20 rebounds in back-to-back games, and obviously the scoring has been great for us too. I think he's in elite. Yeah, the block. Yeah, that's insane too. Do you expect that to continue? I guess the blocks.
I mean, I think he's athletic enough to do it, and I think there's certainly going to be enough shots taken in this game to give him the opportunity. Again, 10 blocks is hard to repeat no matter who you are. You know, even Whiteside probably can't. Keep us, that kind of stability. But you look at that first game against them. He only played 24 minutes in that one, but still had 32 fantasy points. So I mean, you got to figure, that's one of his lowest minute totals of the season. They're playing him a lot more now. I think this could be a really good spot for him. I agree with you with your Gobert call. Montrezl Harrell against Toronto. They're going to have Marc Gasol played over 30 minutes the other night, but they also have Boucher, who you liked, and you mentioned he was the G League MVP.
Yep. G League MVP.
So that's going to be a spot for him. Returning Enes Kanter. We haven't gotten any word exactly on minute restriction.
No limit tonight.
Well, the thing is, so no limit tonight, but he only plays 20 something minutes.
Tonight. It is what it is. Yeah. So no limit, but he's going to play 20 minutes.
Right. So I mean, he can get you double in 20 minutes against Dallas. So he's a guy that's in play. It's frustrating that even with the minutes, Gasol's not doing anything. Where are you in this next tier below for center?
I like Dwight Powell, and I like the fact that he played 29 minutes on the second leg of a back-to-back, and I get it that Porzingis wasn't there, but I mean 27 minutes next to Porzingis is appealing the game before. So I think Dwight Powell can be fine. I think we mentioned how Boston can't rebound. If there's one deficiency for Boston, it is their lack of rebounding.
They have a good rebounder back, though.
True. But if he's only playing 20 minutes.
Yeah, but he's a guy that gets 12 to 13 rebounds when he's playing 20 minutes. So, yeah.
That's true.
This isn't some Celtics homerisms. We know what Enes Kanter is.
We do know what Enes Kanter is. Powell would probably be the only guy other than Boucher. I do like Cauley-Stein's minutes trending upwards, but again, Draymond's back. So what is Cauley-Stein going to do? I think you just, if you're going to spend down, you play Boucher and you don't touch anyone else down here, barring no breaking news. I mean, if you want to go off the rails, Zubac gave you 40 fantasy points in 20 minutes.
There's a couple guys we touched upon on the podcast. Obviously, Zubac is one of them. I think it's pretty crazy. He's averaging almost 23 FanDuel points this season while only playing over 20 minutes in one game this year. He's just a fantasy point per minute beast. I still think even with Kanter returning, Robert Williams could potentially still be a guy in the rotation. It allows them to put Daniel Tice more in his natural power forward position, back, and they don't have to play that undersized center with him. So I still think Williams could be a guy that gets, in spots, and he's another one that doesn't need a bunch of minutes to really put up some, fantasy production. He had the 6 blocks. He's known for his defense and rebounding there. Boucher for sure. And then it was Jackson Hayes. He was the one instead of Okafor that got run 18 minutes. If we think this is a fast-paced game, his athleticism could certainly come into play. He could potentially match up with Capela maybe a little bit better than Favors could. So, again, just a dart. He's $3,600 on FanDuel. Hayes over on DraftKings is 3,200. So, yeah, not a world breaker, but you need 16 points from him at 3,200. And, and if the minutes are there, you look at his, where he is in minutes and his production, like he's almost a fantasy point per minute play. So, there's, again, game stack, dart throw, spend down, punt play, and your X and A's.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a 6-game slate. So it's not like if this was an 11-game slate, I'd put my hand through the computer and smack you. But 6-game slate, perfectly fine.
All righty. Final thoughts here, 6-game slate before we wrap it up.
All the content's out. Sean's lineups are also out, so go check those out.
All righty. We'll talk to you in chat. Roster lock at 7 o'clock. Good luck.
Later, guys.